Today is the third launch of the booklet, Uncomfortable Conversations, an initiative for dialogue. Previously we've taken the book to Belfast. We did a similar discussion in London, and today we've brought it to the capital, and it's really important that this event takes place here in Dublin because it addressed specifically the point that this is not just about healing divisions among and between our people. It's also about addressing the historic legacy of division and conflict between the island of Ireland and Britain. We've reached a point in recent times where it is clear increasingly that the peace process needs to be re-energised. We need to face into the potential for opening up a new phase of the peace process, and we have argued in the party for a very long time indeed that next phase has to be based upon reconciliation and healing. So events like today are about fuelling a momentum that can take us all in the direction of what that type of discussion needs to be about. How we formulate the ideas, how we develop the process, how we get the buy-in and the inclusivity that is needed to ensure that our society collectively moves forward in the direction of a new future, which guarantees that future generations do not live with the experience that our generations grew up living through, and that we in fact set our focus on opening up new opportunities, shaping new possibilities, and all of that as a society which can rely upon a future which will be reconciled and which will be united and which will be integrated into the benefit of all citizens, north and south.
Well, I live now in Dublin, but it's not often that we all get a chance, different faces, different people from different places, to come and address what I think is centrally and the biggest issue to the problems we have on this island. The inability to talk to one another with a meaningful response, and for each other to listen meaningfully. When people sit down and tell their own story about themselves, who they are, where they're from, why they think, what they think, why it's important to them, and say it honestly from the heart, and let the listener be heartful in what they hear, and then return their story. I always think that it's our differences that enlarge us. I can't despise a man. I said this many years ago when I came home from my holidays in Lebanon, that I can't despise a man because he's different from me. The degree to which anybody is different from me is the same degree by which they expand me and make my kind of presence in the world a little bit richer. And I think the purpose of these things here today are to open up that possibility of enrichment. This Uncomfortable Conversations initiative, and particularly I think today's launch here in the Mansion House in Dublin, could be among the more important of these launches, given that the contribution by the British Ambassador, by myself and by Rev Morris raised issues which are rarely rehearsed, and given the spread of opinion makers here, I think it was crucially important. So I hope people go away in some way informed, armed by what they have heard, and that they continue this conversation. And Heather actually put it well when she said, uncomfortable doesn't actually get to it, it's painful. So let's have those painful conversations.
I was glad to come here because I do actually think the subject of the book is a very important one. Obviously all of us, to bridge deep differences of the past. All of us constantly need to push the boat out a bit, explore new territory which might be fertile for peace and reconciliation, and not simply stand on fixed and firm positions, because time moves on. And I do think as somebody who was involved at an earlier and formative stage stage of the peace process. It is something that I suppose overall has made a lot of progress, but we still encounter difficulties as we've seen, and we've got to work at those sort of intelligently and not simply by rote or by Pavlovian reaction.
My view of today's event is that it's another significant milestone in helping to deliver the peace process, because we've got to remember there are two significant things. There's the political process, which is up to those either in Dáil or in Stormont, and then there's the peace process where everybody can play a role. And I particularly congratulate Declan Kearney. I think Declan has taken a courageous step in making this Uncomfortable Conversations project a real thing, because it's a challenge not just to Declan himself and his colleagues within Sinn Féin, but to people like myself who would not be Sinn Féin supporters, to enter into a dialogue to try and see where are the points that we can meet and where are the points that we can build, not just a better Ireland, but build a real and lasting peace. I'm in dialogue with members of the political parties within unionism and within loyalism, and I know that they engage with this process. It may not be immediately obvious, but I know that from my discussions with them, they listen to what Declan's saying, they take on board. They may not agree, they may criticise, but they are listening, and they pick things out that they think are speaking to them in particular, and they do respond to it. And then they look at things within their own community that they might be able to address. Naturally, they look at it with a suspicious eye, but at the same time, it would be foolish to not think they are engaged with this process. My belief is they are, and my meetings with them would clearly indicate to me that loyalism and unionism take with serious consideration the process that Declan has started.
Well, I'm delighted that our first citizen councillor, Crean Dawley, hosted the launch of this really important publication today. We had a fantastic lineup of speakers, and I think the contributions, each in their own way, was insightful and challenging. It's really important that this conversation and these uncomfortable conversations resonate right across Ireland, because building peace is not just about the north. Building peace is about all of Ireland, and of course about our relationship with Britain. So sometimes down here, as they say, people are a bit removed from that conversation and from our responsibilities and our opportunities in terms of developing the peace process and building understanding in Ireland. So we need to opt in to that process. So I think today was a very important step in all of that. I was very pleased also that we had the British Ambassador to Ireland make a contribution. I think that was significant, and everybody involved is to be commended. It's one small step again in what is a very important journey, and a journey in which there is a place for all of us. Doesn't matter where you live or what your political outlook is. If you live in Ireland, any part of it, you have a duty, in my view, to be part of building the peace, of building reconciliation, and of creating a future for all of us.